They arrested her as just another woman caught with military weapons. Nothing special about Maria Santos, just a 38-year-old who'd somehow gotten her hands on sniper gear. But when Admiral Mitchell saw the tattoos covering her arms during processing, his blood ran cold. Because those symbols could only be earned by Navy SEALs, and there had never been a female SEAL in history. From which city around the world are you watching today? If this story moves you, please subscribe to Rising Life Stories to help us share more stories of hidden heroes. Admiral Mitchell had spent 30 years in naval special operations, and he knew every SEAL who had ever earned their trident. The tattoos on Maria's arms weren't just decorative. They were a coded record of classified missions that only existed in the deepest Pentagon files. Each symbol represented a successful operation. Each date marked a kill confirmed by satellite surveillance. But the woman wearing these tattoos was impossible. The Navy had never allowed women in SEAL units, yet the intricate details told stories that only someone who had lived through those missions could know. The warehouse in San Diego's industrial district had been under surveillance for 3 weeks. Naval intelligence suspected it was being used to smuggle stolen military equipment from nearby Naval Base San Diego to black market buyers. What they found during the raid was more than they'd bargained for. Maria Santos was discovered in the back room, surrounded by advanced sniper equipment that was supposed to be locked away in Navy armories, high-powered rifles with classified modifications, night vision scopes that cost more than most people's cars, and ammunition that wasn't available to civilian markets. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for possession of stolen military property," announced MP Sergeant Rodriguez as he secured the scene. Maria offered no resistance, simply placing her hands behind her back and allowing herself to be handcuffed. At 38, Maria appeared to be exactly what the investigators assumed she was, a civilian who had gotten involved in something over her head. She wore a simple black t-shirt, jeans, and work boots. Her long dark hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail. Nothing about her appearance suggested military training or experience. "Are you going to tell us how you acquired this equipment?" asked Corporal Jackson as they loaded Maria into the transport vehicle. "I want a lawyer," was all Maria said, her voice calm and steady. The drive to Naval Station San Diego took 20 minutes through the busy California traffic. Maria sat quietly in the back of the military police vehicle, her eyes scanning the route with what appeared to be casual interest. What the MPs didn't notice was that she was memorizing every detail, escape routes, choke points, and tactical positions that could be useful if the situation deteriorated. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Ice Davis was waiting at the detention facility when they arrived. As the senior intelligence officer on duty, she would be handling the initial interrogation and processing. "Ms. Santos," Davis said as Maria was escorted into the processing room, "you're in serious trouble. The equipment we found you with is worth over $200,000 and includes items that are classified at the highest levels. This isn't just theft, it's potential espionage." Maria sat in the metal chair across from Davis, her posture relaxed but alert. "I told your people I want a lawyer. You'll get one. But first we need to establish your identity and process you according to military detention protocols." What happened next was routine procedure that would change everything. As part of the processing requirements, Maria was asked to remove her jacket and any outer garments for security screening. Maria hesitated for just a moment, knowing that this moment would end the careful cover she'd maintained for months. Then she shrugged off her black leather jacket. The tattoos were immediately visible the moment Maria's jacket came off. Her arms were covered in intricate black ink, not the random collection of designs typical of civilian tattoos, but precise, meaningful symbols that told a story. Lieutenant Commander Davis had seen plenty of military tattoos during her career, but these were different. They were too detailed, too specific, and too professional to be fake. Each design was perfectly executed with the kind of precision that suggested they had been done by someone who understood their significance. "Interesting artwork," Davis commented, trying to keep her voice neutral while her mind raced to process what she was seeing. On Maria's right forearm was a detailed Navy SEAL trident, the eagle, anchor, and trident symbol that marked the elite special operations community. But this wasn't a store-bought design or something copied from the internet. The proportions were perfect, the details exact, and the shading showed the kind of wear that came from years of exposure to sun and salt water. On her left shoulder was a series of small symbols that Davis recognized as mission markers, the kind of tattoos that SEALs sometimes got to commemorate particularly significant operations. A small anchor with coordinates underneath, a skull with crossbones and a date, a compass rose with what appeared to be geographic references. But it was the tattoo on Maria's left wrist that made Davis call for her supervisor. A small, precise symbol showing an eagle grasping a trident with the letters ST-0 beneath it. Davis had never seen that particular marking before, but something about it suggested extreme classification. "Ms. Santos," Davis said carefully, "these tattoos are quite detailed. Where did you get them done?" Maria looked directly at Davis, and for the first time, her expression shifted slightly. There was something in her eyes, a depth of experience and knowledge that didn't match her supposed civilian status. "Various places," Maria replied simply. Within minutes, Captain Mike Bull Williams arrived at the detention facility. As the senior intelligence officer for Naval Station San Diego, he had been called in to assess the situation. Williams had 20 years of experience in naval special operations and had worked closely with SEAL teams throughout his career. One look at Maria's tattoos, and Williams knew they were dealing with something far beyond a simple theft case. "Ma'am," Williams said, settling into the chair across from Maria, "I need to ask you some direct questions. These tattoos suggest a level of familiarity with naval special operations that doesn't match your civilian status." Maria remained silent, but Williams could see her evaluating him with the kind of tactical assessment that came from years of operational experience. "The SEAL trident on your arm, that's not something you get from a random tattoo shop. The proportions are too accurate, the details too precise. And these mission markers," Williams gestured to the symbols on her shoulder, "these reference specific operations." "You seem to know a lot about SEAL tattoos," Maria observed. "I should. I've been working with SEAL teams for 2 decades. Williams leaned forward. "The question is, how do you know about them?" That's when Admiral James Hawk Mitchell was summoned to Naval Station San Diego. Admiral Mitchell arrived at the detention facility within an hour of receiving Captain Williams's urgent call. At 55, he was one of the Navy's most senior special operations officers, with oversight responsibility for SEAL operations across the Pacific Fleet. "What exactly are we dealing with, Captain?" Admiral Mitchell asked as he was briefed on the situation. "Sir, we arrested a civilian woman with stolen SEAL equipment, but her tattoos suggest she has intimate knowledge of classified operations. I think you need to see this yourself." Admiral Mitchell entered the processing room where Maria sat quietly, still wearing only her t-shirt with her tattooed arms fully visible. He took one look at the ink covering her arms, and his expression changed completely. "Dear God," Admiral Mitchell whispered, leaning closer to examine the details. The tattoos weren't just accurate, they were perfect. Every line, every symbol, every detail was exactly as it should be. But more than that, Admiral Mitchell recognized specific elements that weren't common knowledge. The coordinates tattooed under the anchor on her forearm corresponded to a classified operation in the South China Sea that had never been acknowledged publicly. The skull and crossbones with the date referenced a hostage rescue mission in Somalia that only a handful of people knew had actually occurred. But it was the ST-0 symbol on her wrist that made Admiral Mitchell's hands begin to shake. SEAL Team 0, a unit that officially didn't exist, a classified program that Admiral Mitchell had overseen personally from 2018 to 2020, when the Navy had secretly trained its first female SEAL operators. "Captain Williams, Lieutenant Commander Davis," Admiral Mitchell said without taking his eyes off Maria, "I need you to leave the room immediately. This conversation is now classified at levels above your clearance." After the junior officers left, Admiral Mitchell sat across from Maria in the now empty room. "Commander Maria Thompson," he said quietly. "SEAL Team 0, graduated BUDIS in 2019, completed 14 classified operations between 2019 and 2022. For the first time since her arrest, Maria's composure cracked slightly. Admiral Mitchell, it's been a while. Maria, according to our records, you died in a helicopter crash off the coast of Afghanistan 8 months ago. There was a memorial service at Arlington. Your family was told you died serving your country. Maria looked down at her hands, still cuffed to the metal table. In a way, Commander Thompson did die. Maria Santos has been living quietly in San Diego, trying to stay out of the way. Then what are you doing with stolen SEAL equipment in a warehouse under surveillance? Maria met his eyes directly. I wasn't stealing it, Admiral. I was tracking it. Someone has been systematically acquiring classified equipment and selling it to foreign buyers. I've been following the trail for 6 months. Admiral Mitchell leaned back in his chair, processing the implications. You're telling me this was an undercover operation? Unofficial undercover operation. After my team was killed in Afghanistan, I started noticing that equipment from our classified programs was showing up in all the wrong places. Someone with high-level access has been running a smuggling operation. Admiral Mitchell studied Maria's face, looking for any sign of deception. Her story was incredible, but the evidence on her arms suggested she was telling the truth. Maria, if what you're saying is accurate, why didn't you contact Naval Intelligence through official channels? Because the leak is coming from inside Naval Intelligence, sir. Equipment that only 3 people had access to has been appearing on the black market. One of those 3 people is dead, killed in the same helicopter crash that was supposed to kill me. That leaves 2 possibilities. Admiral Mitchell felt a chill run down his spine. You're suggesting that someone in the intelligence community is running this operation. I'm not suggesting it, Admiral. I'm telling you, I have evidence. Maria gestured toward her personal effects, which had been secured during processing. The phone they took from me contains communications, financial records, and surveillance photos that prove a conspiracy reaching into the highest levels of naval operations. Why should I believe you? Maria looked directly at him. Because you know that everything I've told you about my service record is accurate, because you personally oversaw my training and missions, and because you know that the only way I could have survived that helicopter crash is if someone wanted me to survive. Admiral Mitchell was quiet for a long moment, thinking through the implications. The crash wasn't an accident. The crash was real. My teammates died, but I wasn't supposed to be on that helicopter. Someone changed the mission orders at the last minute, which kept me on the ground. When I realized what had happened, I understood that my cover was blown, and I needed to disappear. So you've been conducting your own investigation for 8 months. I've been trying to find out who killed my team and why. The equipment theft is just part of it. Someone has been systematically eliminating the people who knew about SEAL Team Zero. Admiral Mitchell stood up and began pacing the small room. Maria, if what you're telling me is true, then we have a national security crisis of unprecedented proportions. Yes, sir, we do. What do you need from me? I need official protection while I finish gathering evidence, and I need you to help me identify the person inside Naval Intelligence who's been running this operation. Admiral Mitchell made his decision. Consider yourself officially reactivated, Commander Thompson. 2 hours later, Maria sat in Admiral Mitchell's temporary office at Naval Station San Diego, no longer wearing handcuffs, but instead working with a secure laptop to present her evidence. This financial analysis shows payments totaling $2.3 million over the past 18 months, Maria explained, pointing to spreadsheets on the screen. The money trail leads back to shell companies controlled by foreign intelligence services. Admiral Mitchell studied the data. And you're certain this equipment came from SEAL Team Zero's inventory? Positive. These serial numbers correspond to weapons that were issued specifically to my unit. Equipment that was supposed to be destroyed after the program was terminated. Who had access to these weapons after your team was disbanded? Maria brought up another file. 3 people, sir. Lieutenant Commander Johnson, who died in the helicopter crash with my teammates. Captain Rodriguez, who was transferred to Pacific Fleet Headquarters. And, she paused, knowing that the next name would change everything. And Captain Williams, who is currently serving as the senior intelligence officer here at Naval Station San Diego. Admiral Mitchell's face went pale. Mike Williams? The officer who examined your tattoos earlier today? Yes, sir. The same officer who would have been notified the moment I was arrested. The same officer who now knows that someone from SEAL Team Zero survived and has been investigating the theft. The implications hit Admiral Mitchell like a physical blow. Maria, if Williams is involved in this conspiracy, then your cover is completely blown. He knows you're alive and he knows you have evidence. Which is why I need to move quickly. Williams will be trying to eliminate me and destroy the evidence as soon as possible. Admiral Mitchell picked up his secure phone. I'm calling a federal task force. We need to move on this immediately. Admiral, there's something else you need to know. What? Maria pulled up a final file on the laptop. The helicopter crash that killed my teammates wasn't random. I have evidence that Williams provided the flight coordinates to foreign operatives. He didn't just steal equipment, he committed treason and murder. As if summoned by their conversation, there was a knock at the office door. Captain Williams entered without waiting for permission, his hand resting casually on his sidearm. Admiral Mitchell, Williams said with a cold smile, I think we need to talk. The confrontation lasted only minutes. Admiral Mitchell had already alerted federal authorities, and Captain Williams found himself surrounded by FBI agents before he could act on his threats. Maria's evidence led to the largest naval intelligence scandal in decades. 7 officers were arrested on charges ranging from treason to murder. The stolen equipment was recovered, and foreign intelligence networks were disrupted across 3 continents. Commander Maria Thompson was officially reinstated with full honors and assigned to a new classified unit focused on internal security. Her tattoos, which had nearly exposed her during arrest, became the key evidence that brought down a conspiracy threatening national security. 6 months later, Admiral Mitchell attended a private ceremony where Maria received the Navy Cross for her courage in exposing the conspiracy. Her teammates who died in Afghanistan were posthumously honored, their sacrifice finally recognized. At Rising Life Stories, we believe that heroes sometimes emerge from the shadows when their country needs them most. Sometimes the marks we carry on our skin tell stories that the world needs to hear. Where in the world are you watching today? If this story inspired you, please subscribe, because there are heroes among us whose service goes far beyond what we can see.